Ehud's story is found in the book of Judges, which is the second of the history books in the Old Testament. Ehud was the second of the 12 judges who led the Israelites during a time of need. The people of Israel had sunk into many sinful ways, so God allowed different nations to invade, rob, and rule over them as a punishment. During Ehud's time, the Israelites were ruled by their bitter enemies, the Moabites. The Moabites were led by their king, Eglon, who is described in the text as an extremely fat man. Eglon and the Moabites oppressed the Israelites for 18 long years. In response, God raised up Ehud to deliver his people from their oppression. The Bible says Ehud was raised up to be a deliverer. He was from the tribe of Benjamin and stood out from the crowd as he was left-handed. One day, Ehud devised a plan to help his people be delivered from the cruel Moabites. He set off with the tribute gifts demanded each year by Eglon, the king of the Moabites. The king had feasted so much he was very overweight. As Ehud was left-handed, he wore his double-edged sword on the right-hand side so he could draw it quickly. Before he met the king, he hid the sword under his garments so no one would see it. This was important because the vast majority of soldiers in the ancient world kept their weapons on their left legs, which made them easy to draw out with their right hands. King Eglon was suspicious, but he saw no sign of a sword on Ehud's left side, so he was happy to come closer. Ehud revealed the tribute gifts for the king, who was delighted to see the treasures. Ehud later returned to the king alone and asked to speak with him in private, claiming he wanted to deliver a message from God. Eglon was curious and unafraid, believing Ehud to be unarmed. When Eglon's servants and other attendants left the room, Ehud quickly drew his improvised sword with his left hand and stabbed it into the king's stomach. Because Eglon was obese, the blade sank into the hilt and disappeared from view. Ehud then locked the doors from the inside and escaped through the porch. When Eglon's servants checked on him and found the doors locked, they assumed he was using the bathroom and didn't intervene. Eventually, they realized something was wrong. They forced entry into the room and discovered that their king was dead. Meanwhile, Ehud made his way back to Israelite territory. He used the news of Eglon's assassination to raise an army. Under his leadership, the Israelites were able to defeat the kingless Moabites. They killed 10,000 Moabite warriors in the process and secured freedom and peace for about 80 years before the cycle started all over again. Ultimately, what we learn from Ehud's story is that God hears the cries of his people and is able to rescue them in times of need. Through Ehud, God took active steps to free the Israelites from the oppression and abuse at the hands of the Moabites.